Hello and welcome to 24 panels per second. This is the comic book movie and TV podcast from the Comic Crush. Today, as you might expect, this is what we're going to be talking about. Spider-Man Brand New Day. You can catch this at cinemas now. Judging by the box office numbers, many of you already have. Liz has seen it. I've seen it. We're here to talk about the movie and I'll give you our thoughts on it. This will be a full spoiler discussion. Let's get Liz on. Hiya, how you doing, Liz?
Oh, I'm swell.
Good. You're sort of fresher back from the movie than I am by a day or two, right? You just
I saw it on Saturday.
Yesterday.
Yeah. Saturday. So
Saturday. Okay, yeah. I went Friday. I tried to go on Thursday, and every screening that was at a convenient time was fully booked already.
Yeah, I wanted to go on Thursday, but I was waiting for like a friend to see it.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of writhe in, sort of angst for 2 days. It was very hard. It was very hard for me.
I think like I said, I very rarely get excited now. I'm just interested or not interested. And but I was excited about this. So I've just realized my window's open and I better close it because it's going to get noisy otherwise. But I think if I'd had to wait 2 or 3 days to see this, I would have gone.
Oh, it was hard.
Like, oh no.
I resisted a lot of like compulsion to just go beforehand, but it was I'm glad I waited. It was nice to see it with someone. And it was ultimately I'm glad I did that. But
did your pal enjoy it?
Yes, very much.
Right.
So we went and he was wearing like his Spider-Man shirt and I was wearing my usual. So I was like, okay, I'm like the black suit.
Surely you must have a Spider-Man t-shirt.
I have a Venom t-shirt. You could call it the black suit, so Spider-Man t-shirt.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys, I'm sure you don't need it, but I'm going to give you guys a quick synopsis. So Spider-Man Brand New Day. A forgotten Peter Parker lives alone as a full-time Spider-Man until mounting pressure triggers a dangerous change and a powerful new enemy emerges, which is, pretty concise. It covers the boxes as they need to be covered. So Liz, I've got to ask you, going in, what were you expecting from this?
I mean, I have to say, the trailers, they managed to, get you really intrigued without giving much away. I feel because, I really couldn't work out what is the plot of this movie going to be beyond the basic things that we already know, which are, Peter is separated from Ned and MJ. Nobody knows his identity. And, from the glimpses that we saw in the trailer, you barely see the character who we now know is Jean Grey.
Yeah.
But
again, just to remind everyone, full spoiler. So
right, yeah, so it's already out there. It's already out there. But you see like a glimpse of the Hand, who you come to find out later they do play a role, but not a big role.
Yeah, and not the one we were expecting necessarily, right?
Right. It was quite surprising what they kind of did with the Hand. But yeah, they kept it really like it looked like really interesting. You could see, okay, there's his spider powers are growing and changing, and you saw this sort of like the organic webbing and all that stuff in that trailer. Like you saw, okay, they're kind of doing this thing where it's kind of like the other that version of Spider-Man, but like how that all fit together, you really couldn't tell.
I try to ignore a lot of the scuttlebutt online. I mean, obviously the thing about Jean Grey was pretty much blown.
Before. I think it was. But also I think it was just like people were still speculating right up until the end. I was still speculating right up until the end. But when you cast a redheaded, young woman to play like a big mystery role in a Spider-Man movie, an MCU movie, and you know it's not Mary Jane Watson because they've already got their MJ, then you're first, the first character that's going to come to mind is Jean Grey.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily for me, because I wouldn't have necessarily thought that deeply about it. I'm not really schooled on the Marvel mythos. Of course, I'm aware, and I'm very aware that the X-Men are on their way, but I'm not really kind of, and also there is part of me that thinks the speculation is fun, but I think the speculation becomes the overriding factor for a lot of people. And when they don't get what they want, it's a problem. And I'd just rather not engage too much in the speculation. Now, I've got to admit, I did message you just before the movie came out, because I thought we were going to get a version of Mr. Negative.
Yeah.
Because he has some level of mind control powers. And of course, the MCU does play a bit with people's power sets and what they can do and who has what. So it wouldn't be beyond the writers and Feige and all those guys to kind of the sort of story council that they have to kind of decide to borrow some powers from some characters and,
Sure. I mean, they play a little fast and loose, which we see here. Like, we see, with Jean, for example, like, this like is kind of like an early version of her powers where she's hopping from one person to another, which isn't really, it doesn't really mirror her power, powers in the comics.
Yeah,
even
because
like the early versions of her powers.
Because she's a kind of mind reader and telepath.
Right.
And she has the ability to sort of do telekinesis in X-Men, as I recall from what I know. Yeah. But isn't that sort of body hopping takeover stuff is almost more Professor X, really. I mean, that's kind of stuff we've seen him do in other movies.
I mean, we know Jean can do it, but like the idea that she kind of hops from one person to the other, and that she has a limited range in doing so, like that's different to what I associate with Jean. It would make sense for like what they're doing here, though. It's like, okay, yeah, so like, giving her limitations and showing that she's like hasn't fully come into her powers yet. It makes it a lot more plausible that like Spider-Man could, match Jean Grey in any kind of, fight.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is a sense in this that he finally kind of gets an enemy that he can't overcome, which I think is an element of all superhero stuff. There's always got to be a moment where the hero thinks, well, actually, I can't beat this character. I can't beat this person. And it always happens in Spider-Man movies. But here it kind of comes quite early. He kind of throws in the towel very early and understandably. Speaking of jumping, I do have to kind of talk about a thing that I'm sure we'll get into, but I've got to kind of address it while it's in my head, which is there is a massive time jump in this that no one is really, but I don't think people are talking about. Because at the beginning, we see Peter watching, catching up on with MJ and Ned via social media, watching their videos about their, heading to MIT, which, as we remember, Peter was due to do with them before the sort of mind wipe. But as we go through that montage, they get all the way to graduation, which by my estimation is 4 years.
It's 4 years. Yeah. So there is like a 4-year jump essentially. Yeah. Like, they kind of very quickly do this montage over like a 4-year period of them being separated. Which, I mean, when you think about the last time there was a Spider-Man movie was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So the actors have naturally aged, to the point where Tom Holland's like 30 years old now. And I think
still convincingly plays for a younger person, but it's like, well, I think it worked actually pretty well to
like have that time jump, you know, like I think, you know, it's part of Spider-Man's story that he, you know, he kind of grows up and, you know, and goes through, you know, from being the high school student to being the young adult. And I think that works for where the actors are, you know, naturally aged. He's been Spider-Man for 10 years now.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it. So it's like, I think it makes sense to kind of like, okay, let's just skip past, you know, college. Let's get him to, you know, the stage in life where, you know, he's, you know, he's a young adult navigating the world.
By my reckoning, like American kids go to college at sort of 18.
Yeah, 18. Right? So let's
he'd
just
be like
say
22, 23 now.
Right.
Okay. But it does bring up another interesting thing about where this movie takes place in the sort of grand timeline of the MCU. And I've got a feeling this might be revealed later on to be set after Avengers Doomsday. But before, before Secret Wars.
I don't know.
Think about the end credit scene. The very end.
Right, but we still don't know what that means.
Yeah.
We still don't know. We don't even know which Spider-Man are they even talking about?
We'll talk about it. But I've got a feeling, the more I think about it, the more I think that Avengers Doomsday will very much not be a real perceived thing on the Earth that's Peter Parker is on. I think it's going to be something that happens away from that. I
don't know. I mean, well, what about like? I mean, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, okay. We can. Yeah, this isn't something that occurred to me at all. So, but I mean, we do have a character appear that we know is going to be in Doomsday, who's Elena Belova. Like, you know. So how does that factor in?
So I think she might have already gone through Doomsday.
I don't know, man.
Because she's very much in those scenes. In those scenes, she's not really with any of the other. She's not with any of the other Thunderbolts, so we don't know how many of them are going to make it. She's moved out of the tower, and she's running things out of the bathhouse.
Well, I don't know. Nobody said she moved out of the tower. They said that the bathhouse is her office.
Throughout the entire movie.
Office.
She's in it throughout the entire movie. She looks pretty comfortable.
Well, yeah, anyway, I don't know if she lives.
We'll get into this. It was only meant to be a side note, not a side quest. So
right, okay, yeah. All right, let's stay on track.
So we've got Peter kind of very lonely, and what I liked, he's in touch with Jean DeWolf, who's like a cop.
But which I love that they referenced that character. I love that they brought that character in.
And I genuinely expected, because you see her with her kids, and her kids are aware that she's kind of Spider-Man's pal. I was genuinely expecting them to kind of rework it so that somehow one of the kids would be, maybe the dad, maybe he would have a different last name because of perhaps different fathers. And I genuinely thought, when I saw the kids, maybe they're going to make one of those kids Miles Morales, make the boy Miles Morales. And but
see, that never crossed my mind. But but I really liked that they utilized that character, and they sort of gave him someone to talk to, because really, I mean, it's pretty depressing to think that for 4 years Peter has no friends. That everybody's forgotten him for that long, and that he's been alone for that long.
He doesn't have Karen the suit lady anymore.
No, he has Evie
now from the glasses, right?
Yeah, which is like Naomi Watts doing the voice.
Which was interesting, because it allows him a level of sort of super high tech. Because I wondered if they were going to go kind of right back to, back to basics.
Right.
The way all comic runs have to eventually. But they don't do that. He very much is quite technically advanced in what
he's making his own tech, and it's like, which all makes sense. I mean, that's why Tony kind of picked him out in the first place, because he was already, when he was much younger, creating all his own tech. and this is just an advancement of that.
And it's weird because he's now, you know, as the synopsis said, he's Spider-Man full time. That's it. That's all his life is. And when he's noticed by a girl in his building, he immediately gets out of that apartment and moves to like the attic of the apartment building, if you like. And I kind of like that, and it's weird because Tom Holland has this thing where you do worry about him. You do. He very much invokes that sort of parental or little brother thing, and I think he does that quite naturally.
Yeah.
Which is always really impressive. And he's talked about being Spider-Man now for as long as Marvel will let him be Spider-Man. And also, it's a quite sweet thing, and I thought this was one of the many adorable things, was that apparently they've got it in their contracts. So him, Zendaya, and Jacob Batalon, that they are a package deal. So if they make a Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, they have to have those two.
Oh, great! That's great.
Which I think is absolutely adorable, because
I do too.
I genuinely feel that is done out of a very real kind of friendship and love. Anyway, sorry, so you know, he's very lonely, and he's obsessing over MJ, over Ned.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the movie opens with him reading the letter, which, you know, is like a touchstone throughout the film, which, you know, was introduced at the end of No Way Home. You know, when he goes to see MJ in the coffee shop, and he keeps it in the coffee cup that she gave him, which was quite sweet. And you know, so we know that he's still kind of stuck in that same place. You know, he's still mentally sort of in the same place as he was when he wrote this letter. And
very much the film is about people who can move on versus people who can't move on. So in the can't move on kind of department, we have
Peter
Parker,
Jean Grey,
Frank Castle. There's very little growth there, whilst MJ, Ned, even Jean DeWolf is they're all moving on with their lives and progressing forwards, and he very much isn't. We also have this kind of thing where Damage Control's reach and kind of grasp is growing and growing, and it's becoming more and more threatening deep down at its core, whilst on the face of it, hey, it's, you know, they're like a friendly organization now,
right? Except that, like, you know, I mean, he invites, you know, so Metzger, Bill Metzger, who's the director of Damage Control. He's played by
Travis Tillman, I think.
Trammell Tillman,
yes.
Tillman, yeah. He's a new character introduced in this film, and he's very good at playing like this two-faced character. He's very, you know, he's acting very friendly to Peter, but you see that they have all these files on him, you know, detailing, you know, every bit of his powers, and, you know, essentially they're studying him as much as they're, you know, kind of welcoming him in.
Yeah. And there's also this discussion of mutations as well. So Peter seems to be undergoing his own mutation, which is brought on seemingly by the
headaches,
stress.
Right. So he's experiencing headaches. He's, you know, and you know, those, you know, exactly. Stress seems to bring it out.
Jean Grey obviously is a mutant, but Banner. He meets Bruce Banner, and that throws up a very fascinating kind of discussion on mutation and what one should do about it, which I really liked, because that I think was laying the groundwork of one of the core things that we always find in X-Men, which is, well, can we suppress this thing? would you want? Yeah, should we suppress this thing? Which is not something Peter's really asking himself. He just wants to stop it because of what it's doing to his body. It's sort of sending his powers haywire. I thought, though, there would be ample opportunity for a cameo by Daredevil in there somewhere.
I mean, I think we've got quite a few cameos in the film. Yeah. You know, I think spreading it thinner would have probably been too distracting, in my opinion, because it's a long film.
Yes, but I suppose it would have spoiled whatever's going to happen in Born Again season 3 if Daredevil pops up walking the streets.
I mean, what did you envisage? What did you envisage?
For because with the sort of sensory overload that Pete was experiencing, I really thought, oh yeah, this would be an ample opportunity for Daredevil.
Well, yeah, but I don't. Did you need to have a conversation with Daredevil about that?
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm. I mean, surely they can relate, but one of the things I really liked about, I just mentioned that there are a lot of cameos in this film when you think about, like Punisher and Hulk. But I thought that their roles in the film felt really naturally integrated.
Yeah.
It didn't feel superfluous. It felt like they belonged there. They had a reason to be there, which that was one of my criticisms of the Supergirl film.
Yeah.
In as much as I loved Lobo, I don't think he needed to be there.
Right. Okay.
Whereas here, I feel like, the film would have been a completely different film had these two characters not been in it.
Yeah. Did you feel that way about Yelena? Because that was the one I was sort of surprised.
Funnily enough, yeah, I actually I would agree with you that Yelena, I loved seeing her. It was great. It made me laugh. It was very funny. I felt like, no, she didn't need to be in it, but I didn't mind that. I thought it was like it was just like a cherry on top kind of thing to have her in it.
Yeah,
because as much as she,
go on.
Because it added like just some comic relief and it did just sort of like give him that little connection with the new Avengers and what they were doing, and gave him contact there. So I don't think that it was completely superfluous to have her there, but
yeah,
you didn't need it. But I liked it.
Well, the thing is, so I spoke to Paul Taylor. We both spoke to Paul Taylor. We're in a message, a group message with our friend Paul Taylor.
Yeah, and I didn't get to comment too much on that yet, but
and one of the things that he did say was, I wonder if we'll agree on the one big failure of the film. And
what is it, Paul? I don't know.
Yeah, it would have helped because we've both seen it by then if you told us. So, Paul, you didn't need to be coy at that point. But
what do you think it is? Because I don't know what it is.
For me, I think the big failure of the film, if any, is the spider mutation. In the fact that it's not really seen through. Like I know that we get to his way of dealing with it, but we don't really understand where it comes from. Other than it's brought about. No, but we don't. It's very vague. It's brought about by stress. You're stressed out, and therefore you're becoming more
okay.
spider.
I would disagree. I think what it's brought about by is that he has lost. He's basically lost all his human connection, and basically this spider DNA that runs throughout his body is like, okay, well, if you're gonna let go of that, then I'm gonna take over. It's basically the further he gets away from his human side, the more the spider side
I didn't
comes
feel
to the forefront.
Expressed. I think in these types of films, you really do have to have it hit on the head.
I thought they did because that's one of the big themes of the movie is like, oh, am I Peter Parker or am I Spider-Man? And at the end he says I'm both. I mean, I think that's a huge theme.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think
Paul Taylor, not you, Paul.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure what you think the big failure is, but
we do want to know.
I do want to know, and I'm trying to, if I had to like guess, okay, is it to do with Jean as the villain? That's like, if I was gonna like, kind of throw something out there, I would almost say, maybe you made Jean too much of a villain in that like she kills a guy.
Yeah.
And that's you know, kind of taking it a step too far. There is like that moment when they're on the street and she has that, you know, construction worker walk backwards and get hit by 2 cars. And you know, she blows up buildings and I mean, she
and
does,
also
like, you know, she's a lot of her villainous acts are a little too villainous for the character that we know from the X-Men. But I still wouldn't call it a failure of the film. But you know, this is just me positing what it could be.
I wonder if Jean Grey as a character will be used to really push the anti-mutant agenda. You know what I mean? Like I mean, because we've always had the focus of those films be Rogue and Wolverine, right? Those have been the focus of those films, more or less. And then sometimes it peaks with Jean Grey for every adaptation we've had of
the Dark Phoenix saga.
I hope it's a long time before they do that.
I know, and it's a shame because I would have loved to see it done well. You know, I mean, so far, I'm still waiting.
But it will be interesting if her kind of will she, won't she be a villain is the focus of the X-Men films. Like that would be for me kind of an interesting take on it. I don't know that they're that far ahead in terms of what's been written by Jake Schreier and the sort of writing team. I can't remember who they hired to write it, but it was someone who's done some good stuff. And you know, I'm not opposed to that being focused. Anyway, back to Spider-Man. So there's a lot of interesting stuff in this, and I think one of the things it does is kind of recontextualize No Way Home in a manner of speaking. In that, in a meta sense, I wonder if we can look at this film as a warning not to mess around in multiverses. Because it's like, well, you know, look, Marvel messed around in multiverses and they didn't quite pull it off. It's not been the best phase for them. It hasn't really worked out what they wanted. So we'll bring it all crashing down with Secret Wars, and that's fine. Interestingly enough, did you know there are no Marvel movies between? There aren't going to be apparently any Marvel movies between Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Really?
Which I think is like another whole year. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't it like, or at least 6 months? Because
there must be TV shows, surely.
I think, yeah, because I think Vision Quest is still supposed to be this year.
Right.
Like, I mean, I don't know. And of course, Wonder Man season 2 has been
canceled, that's been canceled.
I'm furious.
Well, I'm bummed about it, but I think I have a theory as to why that might be.
Oh, go for it.
Well, it's not that interesting. I think my theory is that because of the success of this, Destin Daniel Cretton is going to be like in demand as like another one of their big directors.
Yeah, it could be
because he directed Wonder Man, and I think that, you know, like, because this is, you know, this might end up outdoing Avengers Endgame at the box office. Right now it's like you know, it's kind of on a trajectory to possibly, you know, do that. And I
think 367 million opening weekend, and they think the full run is going to be $1 billion at least.
Right.
I mean, you know, more power to them. It's a great movie and deserves it.
So I think that he's just going to be too busy to do a Wonder Man season 2.
I
think that those characters could definitely pop up again. I think, you know, whether, you know,
I hope so.
Yeah, and I think that you know, as things stand, I thought that as a single season, it was like, you know, it ended very well. You know, and I loved it. I would have liked to see a second season, but I'm, you know, I'd like to see him direct another Spider-Man movie.
I wonder if they're going to push Wonder Man as a sort of element for Secret Wars, and you know, because people really like the character, and I hope that's going to be a thing. There's kind of an interesting thing with this, and it's something I've kind of noticed over the course of this last Marvel phase, but especially in this, which is there's been a definite change. The mood is a bit I mean, I want to say lighter and more idiosyncratic. It's like they're kind of embracing very different storytelling now. Because despite the kind of depressing nature of what Peter's going through and what Gina's gone through throughout the film, it was kind of built for fun.
I mean, like, who would have thought that like the Punisher would be like the main source of laugh in Spider-Man movie?
I mean, do you think, because you look at Peter's relationship with Jean DeWolf and his relationship with Frank Castle, do you think he's replacing his family and friends with, like, because you can kind of see a through line between Jean DeWolf and Aunt May, right?
Sure.
Because Peter was always concerned about May. May was always concerned about Peter. And that's one of the things I've noticed I really love about his character, is that he's always more concerned about his friends and his family than he is himself. And I really love that about him. Like, I just think it's incredible. And I think it's something that comes out of him as an actor. And you know, Frank could be seen as the Uncle Ben replacement, or the kind of father he never had, or the big brother. You know what I mean? He can't really replace MJ as a lover, because that is the whole point of him not being able to move on. And I think they deal with that wonderfully. But I kind of noticed in looking at the kind of relationships he's having in this, that seemed to be a kind of through line. I mean, also it's worth talking about. I think that this might be the first major Marvel movie of the social media age, even though the social media age is kind of coming to an end now, because Peter has to watch his friends live their lives on Instagram, getting into MIT, graduating from MIT, and it's absolute torture. And it's an interesting kind of comment on the social media age. And also, even with the time jump, that in itself is a kind of comment on social media and the way we live our lives now. Because there is a theory. Sorry, I'm going to go off on a little tangent now. Go on safari about what social media has done to our perception of time. Social media, you know, Facebook, anything you want, anything you pick off, any kind of screen interaction, where we're kind of looking at video and stuff and posts. And this is not my theory. I heard this from Adam Curtis, the documentarian, who heard it from another filmmaker or documentarian, which is there used to be things would happen, we would perceive them, we would write about them, talk about them, and that would become history as a society, you know, right, as a civilization. Now, because everything we're looking at is contextless, it's just you could be looking at a video from 5 years ago or 10 years ago or yesterday, and you don't know that. You don't know. There's no way for you to know what you're looking at. So things you're seeing become entirely contextless, and therefore time itself is kind of unraveling, or our perception of it is kind of unraveling on a very sort of micro scale. And therefore we can't form a consensus. We don't have any distance from events. Everything is happening now. And it's also, I think, the reason why a lot of people feel more stressed all the time, and they're kind of angry all the time, is that everything is happening right now, and you've got to be terribly concerned about everything now, but you don't. And I think the problem is Peter is kind of having all that stuff filtered in. Because look, where's his break? Where's his respite? It's gone. So he can't build Lego with Ned anymore. Right. He's just looking at his phone, watching them live their lives, or he's out, you know, busting heads with Spider-Man.
It's interesting because I guess it is kind of a commentary on, like, you know, self-isolation, which, you know, kind of the social media age has brought on in a lot of people.
Sorry, I go off on one.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it is a tangent, but it's interesting. You know, I mean, there is a lot of self-imposed loneliness in the world right now, and a lot of like, connection that is only, you know, sort of exists, you know, on screens, on devices. You know, he still feels connected to MJ and Ned, but he's only seeing, you know, social media posts, you know, not experiencing real life connection. So I guess there is a little like meta commentary there on
yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's intentional, but I'm just saying, like, it's kind of an interesting thing to see, especially in a Marvel movie that actually obviously really desperately relies on social media to have a kind of impact. And I thought their relationship was kind of handled in a very interesting way, him and MJ. Which, how do you feel about where it's been? Not where it's been left.
I mean, like, I thought it was handled in a way that was surprising and very bittersweet. I thought so I mean, one thing I would mention is that, like, you know, when Peter's reading out the letter at the beginning of the film, one of the things he says, you know, is that, you know, maybe it's his responsibility to sort of to basically go, you know, hold the weight of his decision alone, you know. So he's kind of doomed himself, you know, to feel like he, you know, to protect MJ and to protect Ned, he has to be alone. But he still, you know, sort of yearns for her, obviously. And he's never gotten past it. And, you know, yeah, even though there has been, like, you know, 4 years time where if he didn't feel this responsibility, and, you know, Spider-Man's whole thing is great responsibility, to be alone, like, you know, maybe he would have, you know, met someone else and moved on. But he doesn't allow himself to do that. Meanwhile, MJ, you know, as we already said, she has moved on. You know, we know she's got a boyfriend. When he runs into Ned on the street and he follows him into the house party, you know, and he interacts with both Ned and MJ very awkwardly. You know, you see that MJ's got a boyfriend, and, you know, we don't know who he is. I don't know that it matters at this point, but you know, it's really hurtful for Peter, and that's when he goes, you know, that's when the stress reaches its peak, and he goes full spider, and he wakes up cocooned in webbing, and you know, he, you know, discovers, you know, the organic web shooters coming out of his wrists, and he's all grossed out by it, and all that, you know, unfolds. But to get back to your question, you know, the relationship between him and MJ, you know, it's really sad, sort of the way it all plays out, because they don't give you that, like, that sort of, like, you know, quick satisfaction of getting them back together. You know, you have that moment where you almost kind of think it does happen.
Oh God, that is one of the cruelest things I've ever seen in a movie.
I know, and it really makes you, like, think Jean is, like, you know, like, just really villainous. It's such an awful thing, because, you know, he, you know, she allows him to believe that, like, you know, that MJ remembers him and he gets the thing that he wants the most, and then she takes it away from him.
It's a like good comment on the sort of iconic moment from the first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, it is like they even do the you know, the thing where she kind of pulls the mask up, and, you know, and it's heartbreaking.
You know, I think Zendaya played that note perfect, really. Yeah. Like I thought that was a terrific bit of acting, because she has to switch from being MJ to being you know, Jean in just a few, you know, in 1 second, really. And I thought that was a terrific bit of acting, but genuinely one of the cruelest things. And I kind of knew it was coming it was just like, oh no, I know what this is going to be. This is going to be horrible. Yeah. But also what I like about it is that I think MJ as a character, when she kind of learns the truth, she kind of recognizes, without saying it overtly, and without the film saying it overtly, she recognizes that actually the strongest relationship is Peter and Ned. And that I thought was even nicer. But she brings up a fascinating point, which is, yeah, okay, you loved me, apparently, but I don't remember loving you. Like I don't know who you
well,
are.
yeah,
Like,
she basically says,
know.
like, the girl that you had that relationship with doesn't exist anymore because I'm not her. I don't know you. And it's really sad. I mean, like, all of that is really sad. What it reminds me of a lot, actually, is Guardians 3. And
yes,
the situation with Gamora, where it's like, oh, and that was heartbreaking too. Where it's like, well, the girl that I'm not that girl.
Yeah.
And even though it's like we're both here, we can't be together because it's not the right thing. But I think this obviously ends with some more hope than that did. I feel like even though she does break his heart, she does say, like, whatever you did, it worked. I don't remember you. She then invites him in, and she, the part of her, does sort of, whether she remembers him or not, part of her recognizes that, she wants him in her life.
Yeah. Which I think is quite nice. I don't think they did enough with the boyfriend.
I don't think they needed to do more than that. For me, I mean, it's a 2.5 hour film. I think,
true,
it's
but
like,
it just becomes like a bit of a, not even a cipher, really. He's just a footnote.
Well, that's fine. I'm okay with that.
I wonder if very consciously they were worried about the Zeb Wells Spider-Man effect.
Well, I mean, everybody hates seeing MJ with another guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to say this out there, Spider-Man fans. As much as I love you, you were a giant bunch of babies over that entire storyline.
Well, and I'm kind of
I think you really need to grow up.
Well, yeah, hey,
I've never seen a bunch of people act like.
Oh my god! Hey,
Well, I said that, and then we had the
either.
reaction to Supergirl, where equally big baby reaction from people. But yeah, I wonder if they were worried about the Zeb Wells effects bleeding out into their, if they get. It would have been so funny if that character was named Paul, but I think he's literally listed in the credits as
boyfriend.
the boyfriend.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe that's intentional. It's probably intentional, but like I just think that they, just giving him like a glimpse at the fact that she has a boyfriend, I think was like enough.
And also he kind of dances around MJ, but he very much gravitates toward Ned, even in that scene. Ned's his kind of entryway back in to her life.
But Ned, he just has this like really comfortable rapport with, like, it's really easy for him to sink back into interacting with Ned because it doesn't have the same weight, as it does with MJ. When he does interact with Ned, Ned's like a Spider-Man fanboy.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very funny. And he's created this Spidey tracker app, which, there's a little payoff for later. But he's, it's basically quite another like amusing little interaction where, we see like Ned, and Peter, geeking out, like playing with Lego, referencing Lord of the Rings, and just being dorks together, basically.
I loved all that. I do, again, just the adorability level of these characters is through the roof, and I think that again it's very organic, and I feel like it comes from them. I know Holland. I know it sounds crazy. I keep singing his praises, but it's because the more I see from him in the press and the more I read about him, the more I'm kind of, like I think he's a decent, solid human being, and that does count. That does count for something, and I think it's important to people nowadays to have their actors and their stars be sort of decent, solid human beings. But he was also instrumental in, so he'd come off the Odyssey and gone straight into this, from the looks of it, and apparently they were doing the film quite differently, not in terms of story beats, but just in terms of the way the film was being made. And when he arrived, into those sort of meetings and things about how the film was going to be made, his attitude was, no, we have to do it differently. So we have to do it for real. We have to do as much as possible for real, because he had just done the film with Nolan, who tends to shoot things, very real. And people get confused about that because they think that what it means is that things will only be done physically for real, and it's not always about that. I think what it's about is really having a lot more physical elements that are real, and that is actually him swinging down the streets in a lot of cases and doing a lot of the bigger stunts. I thought the stunt work was amazing, and direction wise, I really wish Daniel Dustin Cretton had brought some of that to Shang-Chi, because as good as Shang-Chi was and as entertaining as it was, I think he's a much better director here than he is.
I agree. I think that Shang-Chi I really liked Shang-Chi, and I think one of the things that can be said for both movies is that like the fight choreography was brilliant in both this film and that. This I would also want to comment because I kind of forgot to mention it, we were talking about the beginning of the film. I think that the Spider-Man swinging through the city point of view stuff has not ever been done better than in this film.
Yeah.
I think that I think it was, particularly for that opening leg of the film where we see him hit his perspective, above the city, where it's you actually really feel how high up he is, and you feel yourself making those landings with him and stuff. I thought that was incredible. And then of course, like I said, the fight scenes, particularly some of the scenes with the hand, I thought were amazing.
Yeah, I really liked those, and that end sequence was done really well. I thought that the sort of final battle, and it's interesting the way that final or a large chunk of that final face off between Jean Grey and Peter is done without them being in the same space. They're in completely different parts of that building, and it's all being done kind of psychically. And I really like that. And I don't think I've ever necessarily seen that stuff being done better either.
I agree,
I thought it was a very, very kind of... How do you feel about his relationship with Frank Castle in this? Because I
loved it.
Shouldn't
loved
work,
it. I mean, okay, you want to say it shouldn't, but it kind of should. I mean, if you look at the history of Punisher and Spider-Man, I mean, Punisher first appears in an issue of Spider-Man, famously, and there's always been this sort of relationship where Frank sort of tolerates Spider-Man, and something, in Spider-Man kind of brings out this slightly paternal side in him. And that's exactly what you get, in this movie. I thought, like I mentioned earlier, the scenes are really funny. Their dynamic is really funny. Somehow, I think John Bernthal is just so good at being the Punisher that he can completely retain the essence of that character, whether it's a hard R-rated special where he murders 100 people in 90 minutes, or whether it's a PG-13 Spider-Man movie.
Did you I thought in this they did kind of dumb him up a little bit, he seemed to be playing it slightly more thick, I would say.
I mean, I think they I think in it's all about context, it's I think I think that they played him for laughs a little bit more, and they leaned into some of kind of just this gruff sort of kill first, ask questions later character that we know, where Spider-Man's the one who keeps trying to talk him out of it and trying to stop him and trying to so I thought that they just found the right balance. And I loved it. I just thought their chemistry together was so good. Like you can tell that they are friends, you know, in real life, which they are.
Which apparently goes back like even before the first Spider-Man. They did a film. I don't know what film it was they did together.
Like something. I feel like I've heard that they helped each other with their audition tapes, respectively.
But they'd done.
Don't quote me, but
they'd done a film together before that.
Yeah,
and they really kind of gravitated towards each other. And again, not a friendship you would pick out as going, oh yeah, that'll be
right, yeah. But I thought they just had such great chemistry, and like, you know, and I liked, you know, I mean, I think the Punisher, you know, being like his sounding board makes so much sense when you look at where he is in his life in this movie. Like the Punisher is the ultimate loner, you know. He's
very true.
You know, and he's the guy who's like the cautionary tale. You know, he says to Peter, like, do you think I want to live like this? Do you think like if the people I loved were still breathing, that I'd still be doing this, like, you know, the way I am? You know, and he points out he doesn't have a choice, but Peter does. You know, the people he loves are still alive, and he's the one choosing to you know, not be with them.
And also, like, I've got to say that those moments at the end gave me the biggest. I mean, like the last 10-15 minutes of this, I was just crying.
Me too. I mean, like I cried a bunch of times.
Incredibly moving.
Like when you know, like the whole, you know, I mean, and we got to talk about, like, you know, when Frank shoots Peter, you know, when that happens. I actually really thought in that moment that they were going to follow through and that he was going to die. You know, because Tom Holland has said, like, you know, in the past, you know, I'm only going to be doing this role for so many films. And I was like, I really, you know, for a few minutes there, I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to kill him.
I think, what that really means for him, though, is he's also spoken about being really desperate to introduce Miles Morales, because he feels that he's got to kind of repay what Downey Jr. did for him in the MCU, and he wants to be that for someone else. And I think that's quite, again, it speaks, you know, so much to his character. And I think that's what he's talking about there. I thought they were going to kill him,
but then even when they didn't, I was still crying because, you know, you get that scene where you know, where he has to go out in the crowd, and like the Punisher, you know, is like hilariously like, you know, distracting them with the Spider-Man mask on, you know, which had me dying.
But what really got me there was the little kid who spots it. And I don't know if that kid sort of figured it out, but I loved that.
It was really sweet. It was like, he makes like the little spider, the thwip at him. And I mean, it, like the whole thing, just, I was like, oh, like, you know, so moving. And like, you know, really, I thought that, you know, that there was just like a lot, you know, so much like emotional weight to, you know, to the screenplay overall, you know.
I mean, you've got a kind of, you know, I for me, that the big tear jerk moment was the thing with Ned, right at the end. Like that was like, oh my god, that absolutely got me. That was so beautiful.
The handshake, I thought like, I mean,
I don't realize I've sort of started rewatching the
Homecoming onward,
MCU, so the MCU trilogy again, or what was a trilogy until now, and I'm sort of just a third of the way through Far From Home right now. And you don't realize until you watch how many times they unconsciously do that shake.
Wow.
But just, you know, absolutely beautifully done. Nick, can you tell me, Jean Grey's sister, was that a thing that was?
So here's the thing. I wasn't sure. So I've read, like, you know, a bunch of the Claremont X-Men, where she apparently first appeared, and I don't remember her. But it is like, you know, so I feel like I know my X-Men pretty well. So she's not referenced often, but she does exist, and she has since Claremont era. So in the comics, she was not powered. She was just like a, she was Jean Grey's older sister. She doesn't have powers in the comics. She does like eventually get killed. And like her consciousness goes into this like phalanx, which it's an era of X-Men that I've never read. So I have to say, like, I don't really...
I've already switched off.
All right, yeah. Well, anyway, to answer your question, to answer your question, yes. But I had to look it up because I was really unsure about it. I was like, does she have a sister? Is that a thing? So there is a comics basis for it, but not one that, like, I mean, I consider myself an X-Men fan, and I didn't know. So
I've got a feeling, though, interestingly enough, I think I looked those two actors up, and I think that the actress playing her sister, who's supposed to be older, is actually like still a teenager, whereas Sadie Sink is like in her 20s, I think.
Okay.
But that was like a bizarre thing that I never noticed, because it was like, oh, is she supposed to be an older sister? And you figure out, like, through the dialogue that she is supposed to be like a slightly older sister.
Did you clock the little reference with the scrunchie?
No. But what?
It's her scrunchie. It's her scrunchie, but it's green and gold, which are Jean's colors.
Well, she's got the jacket as well. She
does. But like the scrunchie, I kind of thought was like, oh,
yeah.
I thought that was kind of like a nice little reference.
I mean, I'm a bit annoyed by the way everything had to be kind of spoiled for this before, because like I even knew Yelena was going to show up because they started talking about. I
had no idea. Yeah. See, I just kept. I just stayed out of.
Yeah.
Spoilerville.
Much better than that.
I didn't know Yelena was going to be in it. I kept like, pretty out of the loop. So
I liked the way the Yelena scenes. I kind of liked the way what she brought to that was
for like having. Probably about 5 minutes screen time. She really she made a very memorable impression on the film. She, I mean, you laugh a lot when like all her lines about the potatoes and everything is really funny.
But the thing is, at their heart, these are they're still John Hughes teen dramas in a way at their heart. And I thought that what she brought to it was sex. It was just like, she's there naked in the fucking bath.
Big hot tub. Bath thing. Yeah.
The sort of Russian bath place. And it's interesting because that's set in Brighton Beach, that scene, I think, which is like
Really?
Yeah, I think it's meant to be Brighton Beach in New York, like
okay,
not Brighton Beach, Brighton, yeah, but that's like the big Russian settlement in New York, I believe.
Okay,
historically, so it's kind of I like the way they did that, but I think what she brings is sort of the sort of threat of sex. That he's not ready for, he's not ready for another partner. He's not ready to have sex.
Well, I mean, just obviously he's very awkward in that scene where he has to get like, and she's like, I saw your belly button.
Yeah. I can't believe how fucking ripped he is.
I mean, he's Spider-Man. Of course he's going to be ripped.
But I really like the way that he can still do that kind of awkwardness. I think that's kind of a lot.
He's very good at doing that awkwardness, like that's one of the really lovable things about him, and what makes him such a great Peter Parker.
But it also speaks to the fact that kind of the next time out, they've got to be moving into a slightly different, more adult arena.
Well, I think that's why they did that 4-year time jump. I think to take him out of the teenage era and to like move him toward the older Spider-Man,
Yeah, I didn't really have any fucking problems with this film. I loved it.
I loved it. I thought, I can't really think of anything beyond like, okay, fine, Jean's like, maybe a little like too violent.
Yeah.
But by the end of the film, it's like, she's you know, I thought it was really sweet the way that Aunt May ends up being like, you know, kind of the vessel to, you know, to get through to Jean. You know, in Peter's mind, like, you know, the mess, you know, like the lessons that Aunt May taught him are what, you know, bring Jean back down. And you know, gives him the connection with her, you know, and I thought, you know, I really loved that.
Yeah, I thought that was beautifully played, and it was nice to see Marissa Tomei come back again, because I really think she's going to be so sorely missed in this series of films if she's not in him. It's weird out looking back at the trilogy, like the first three films. Uncle Ben really isn't a thing.
He's not a thing. No, there is no like Uncle Ben. That's not, you know, like basically it's all Aunt May.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting how they've kind of moved that on to her character.
But and I think it was very smart, because instead of like, you know, instead of having that that backstory to explain, you know, it kind of just helped them move forward, you know, without having to do, you know, the whole origin over again for like the third time.
Yeah.
You know, they already did it, you know, in 2 other, you know, Spider-Man franchise films, you know. It's like, just, this was the clever way to move on, and like, you know, and just give Aunt May like kind of the dual role of you know, being the, you know, kind of existing parent at the start, and also the one to impart that like great lesson to him, you know.
It is really kind of nicely done. And it was great to see her again. And I was kind of really happy with the resolution. I was sort of left hanging as to where Jean is going and what she's doing.
Well, so, I mean, I think she's going to Westchester, you know, New York.
Although not the version of Westchester that we're going to be seeing in Doomsday, because that's going to be a completely a different universe from the looks of it. It looks like Doomsday so far is going to be taking place in sort of 3 different universes. I've got some theories on Doomsday, Liz.
Do you want to?
Yeah, I want to. If we've got, do you reckon we can do 5 minutes now?
5 minutes. All right. Yeah. I mean, we've been really good. We've kept it to an hour so far, so you know.
Yeah. So, do you feel you've got everything you wanted to get out?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. I think just to underline it, I loved it. I thought it was like, you know, I mean, I just didn't know how they could follow up No Way Home. No Way Home. No Way Home. Sometimes I get the titles messed up. Not Far From Home. No Way Home. I didn't know how they could follow up a film like that, because it was so over the top spectacular. And somehow they managed to do it. And I mean, put a film like this, you know, like on par, I would say, with that.
I'm now hearing a lot of retroactive hate for No Way Home.
Oh well, shut up.
But I don't care. I
loved it.
The 2 or 3 times that I've seen it, I've loved it. I'm sure I'll enjoy it again when I get around to watching it in my sort of rewatch. So Doomsday.
And I'm just going to put it out there. I don't really have any like theories about Doomsday.
No, okay. So you're up.
So I just kind of want to hear yours. Yeah, go on. Like I've watched the trailers so far. But I'm, you know, again, I try not, you know, I'm not reading speculation. Like I don't engage with like, I watch the trailers and then I switch off, and you know.
Okay. So I'm gonna just, because this is just stuff we would talk about on the phone anyway. But I'm gonna touch you now at it.
Yeah.
For the audience, I wonder if I'm usually wrong, so it doesn't matter. You can just disregard this or switch off now. If you are switching off, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. It's been fun having you. I'm beginning to wonder if it is going to be all a big rug pull. I'm not sure that he is Doctor Doom as such.
Okay.
Because we do hear someone with an accent, a very specific accent, kind of doing the voiceover for that last trailer. That could be him, that could be not. But I'm also, my mind is sort of cast back to the end of Endgame and what he did, and thinking about what the second snap did to the Hulk, and then what the third snap did to Tony, leaving him very burned and scarred. And I wonder if it's something to do with that. I'm beginning to wonder if he is still Tony Stark, but has somehow been shifted into some other universe. I don't know, obviously. Okay. Because that on the battlefield in Endgame is the last time we see him.
Yeah.
We don't know what happens after that. Right. We assume they bury him and or cremate him or do whatever.
Do whatever, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm very curious about who is not in the trailers and who have not been in any of the trailers and not featured in it. As usual, there's lots of punditry going around saying, oh, like, if you look at the way they're standing, there's clearly supposed to be someone here by X and someone here.
I mean, like okay. and you have to like realize too that like, you know, like trailer footage doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah.
There was like whole scenes in one of the trailers for Brand New Day that like got cut from the film.
Yeah.
Like where he goes to like a school and it's like, you know, completely removed from the film.
Yeah. So, but I'm very curious that we've got no Doctor Strange. Who we last saw kind of disappearing into some sort of dimensional portal with Clea. I'm very curious that we've got no Scarlet Witch.
Right, like all the big magic heavy hitters. Like
yeah. It's like where are they in all this? So I wonder if we're gonna get. And I actually think they will hold it off to the movie, and I hope they hold it off to the movie because I would love if there is some genuine surprises going into this.
I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen. That's what I love about it. I'm like, I got nothing.
There is, I mean, from the looks of it, they're saying it's some big incursion that's going to affect the Fantastic Four universe, the regular MCU, and the
the rumor is Tobey Maguire's like there's a rumor about Tobey Maguire's like Spider-Man universe.
Okay. I mean,
like the casualty.
Yeah, I mean it's entirely possible. But as with this, I mean, you see things in the trailer that could just be montages. Like, remember every character that popped up in the trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day, all the villains, they were dealt with in a few seconds.
Like in a montage at the beginning of the film, which I thought was really cool. I forgot to mention this.
Yeah,
did you note how all those fights were like recreations of the like most famous covers? Okay, yeah. I thought that was really cool.
There's a nice little guide to them that someone's done on Marvel.com at the moment. That's worth looking at, like a kind of guide to the characters. Did they cut the boomerang one though? That was in the end of the trailer and was like the thumbnail for most of the trailers.
Oh yeah,
that got cut, right? I mean,
no, was it? I can't remember.
We've got such terrible memories for a film we saw.
Well, I mean, I remember the boomerangs being in it.
Oh right, okay. Well, they didn't then. Yeah. They didn't. And funny enough, I've just been rereading Superior Foes, so that's kind of. I would have loved to have seen some of that essence, but I think it has enough kind of comedy in it as it is. But yeah, Doomsday. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just now a bit kind of suspicious that maybe he isn't Doctor Doom. Maybe what we're going to get is an inverse of what was it called? I loved it as well. Bloody hell, the Iron Man thing, the Sinister Iron Man. What was it called?
Infamous Iron Man.
Infamous Iron Man. Yes. Yeah, I wonder if we're going to get some sort of inverse of that. There is of course, the rumor that it's Cap going back in time and staying there that brings about the Fantastic Four universe, and so it's kind of all tied into Cap. And then equally, people are saying, "Oh, that's not actually Cap in the trailer. That's Doom disguised as Cap."
Okay,
and, so there's all kinds of stuff happening there. I'm very curious to see how it all plays out. But we'll be talking about that
absolutely
just before Christmas. Jesus,
I know. Well, it's not that far, really. I mean,
it isn't. We're in the kind of
home stretch.
The home stretch of the year, really, without noticing it. So the next time we'll be back, Liz, I think is for Lanterns, although I'm now away in London for work quite a lot over August and September. So just to tell you folks, it will be very late in September that happens, I imagine. But I'd like to do it because I'm getting very excited. The more I see of Lanterns, the more kind of
it looks really cool. Yeah, I'd be up for talking about that, definitely.
Yeah, and we might even try and squeeze in Spider-Man Noir.
Maybe,
which I still haven't finished.
I mean, I haven't finished it either, to be honest. I mean, I'm most of the way through, and it's good. I am enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed what I've seen. I just need to kind of be more diligent and catch up. But guys, as always, comic reviews and other things like that on the Comic Crush in the web shop right now. Quite literally, the web shop. We've got a ton of Spider-Man stuff. I'll put the links all in the description below. Thank you for watching if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you for listening if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. As always, we really appreciate all of you that take the time to tune in. Do drop us a comment. Let us know what you thought of Spider-Man Brand New Day. What did you like? What didn't you like? What are your hopes for X-Men? What are your hopes for Avengers Doomsday? I'd like to hear from you guys. Please do let us know about what you really want to happen next, and then we'll look forward to how disappointed you'll be when it doesn't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Or you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Or you'll be pleasantly surprised. I still thought there was room for surprise in this, and I really liked the way it turned out. A great film, definitely a 4-star movie for me. I go see it if you haven't. But if you haven't, why are you watching this?
Go to cinema. Go
see this. And just a reminder that there's the 2 top movies in the country, if not the world at the moment, both star Tom Holland, John Bernthal, and Zendaya. So so there you go. That's obviously the winning combination. Yeah. So go see those. But yeah, folks, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Comic Crush, but do check out the website www.thecomiccrush.com for movie news and comic reviews and all that kind of good stuff. And we'll catch you all soon. Goodbye.
Bye.
We're